Today in Africa, we see a lot of uprisings, planning for uprisings, plotting for uprisings in several African countries. The events on the African continent, therefore, as predicted much earlier myself, in 2017, I said, before 2020, 13 African countries would have undergone either soft regime change, soft coups, or violent regime change through uprising, which now seem to be real. The signs that and symbols that we see are the real symbols and the signs that more is to come against African governments. What do we do then? There is a new method of changing governments strategically placed in the United States of America by George Soros. George Soros funds civil societies, civil disobedience, civil violence in Africa. It is upon you Africans and African heads of state, wherever you were, as you plan to convene next month or before the end of this month in Addis Ababa, to understand the magnitude of this regime change strategy. Many wars are taking place, internal strife conflicts like the one in Cameroon, Amazonia, like the one in Biafra, Boko Haram, and then in Biafra, like the one in Libya. But the theme is the same. Regime change, uprising. Is it a matter of taking over our resources? You see, the war in Congo has erupted again. Unknown militias have arrived in Congo, restarted the war, and it is going on. All these culminate to one thing. Are we ready to be independent? As I said last week, this week, are people in Africa ready to accept the results of elections? Elections everywhere in Africa are bringing the chaos we see. The people of Africa seem to be divided after elections or before elections. Is Africa ready for elections? Do we need elections in Africa? If so, are we tolerant enough to accept results? Are we ready? Which method can we use in Africa to make sure that there is hope for the countries and there is hope and the future of Africa is guaranteed? Viewers, the High Court in Malawi today or yesterday was hearing a case when the president had already been sworn in. If the president of Malawi has been sworn in, then the High Court is hearing the case. Is that not a disaster, an accident in waiting? Whether this will make us have a peaceful Africa remains to be seen. And may God help us to build a better Africa. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you very much. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting from the Political Command Center in Africa. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Masanga. Thank you very much for watching this show, the Africa Showdown, this afternoon. It is exactly 27 minutes past 2 o'clock East African Standard Time. Good afternoon. Across in Nairobi, we have Miriam Ogutu at the General Headquarters in a makeshift operational studios. Good afternoon, Miriam.
Doctor, very good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the rest of the panelists, and indeed good afternoon to our viewers. Good morning, good evening, depending on where they're tuned in today across the globe.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that and many other things to follow. Good afternoon, Daniel Wesonga in the CBD. I don't know whether you are in the CBD right now, but it looks like you are somewhere. And you look like you are about to fly towards Israel. The colors of your shirt today indicate Israel flag. Are you going to Israel? Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, a very, very good afternoon, Dr. Masanga David at our Political Command Center. Good afternoon to my sister Miriam Ogutu in Nairobi. And good afternoon to our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. Indeed, it is a pleasure for me to join you this afternoon.
In a windy place, where are you located?
I'm just in the outskirts of Nairobi, Dr. Masanga, for the legacy assignments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Across Nairobi, the CBD, in the central, in the palatial homes around Nairobi. Thank you very much. Across Kenya, we have none other than Tawish Samuel Olesisana, our man, special programs man. How are you in Narok?
A very good afternoon indeed to you, Dr. David Matsanga. Good afternoon to Miriam Ogutu, as well as, of course, my brother, Sean Daniel Wesonga, and all our viewers watching this program in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. My great pleasure to join you on this program, Dr.
Thank you very much. Things might be not rosy, but they will be rosy. Never, ever. Jado Rizzo said, and I want to quote, he said, it is not that who points a finger at you who is to be credited, but it is the man who is in the theater of operation, who sweats with blood, who should be credited. Am I there, Miriam? I'm preaching. A few days ago, 5 days ago, I talked about the mafia. In Kenya, I wrote an article on how the mafia killed Aldo Moro, the prime minister of Italy in 1978, assassinated him, called him, used to work with them, used to give them contracts, but they turned on him, they killed him. And I was teaching my students in Thames College in 1998. I told them never trust a mafia. When you go for mafia, go once. Don't go and touch him and then leave him. And all of you here watching this program across the continent of Africa, mafia are the most dangerous cartels that have destroyed this continent. Therefore, when we go for them, don't go for them halfway. You have watched the films of the mafia style, that when you are given an assignment, you return when the person you went to kill has not been killed, you are also killed. That's how the mafia works. Are we in a mafia state in Kenya? It cannot happen every day. Only it can't happen every day to me and to you, to Miriam. If every day Miriam finds her door opened, broken into, every day she replaces, broken into, she replaces. Isn't it something that is strange? Doesn't it raise your eyebrows? Don't you change the house? What do you tell to the neighbors that who is amongst you? Who has become Brutus? I always give these sermons so that the people remember. Emperor Nero, and I know Wesonga is good at quoting certain good things, and Miriam, you are all students of this subject in the future. Emperor Nero remembered the one thing. After the mother told Emperor Nero that the Christians were the best, instead of this one who guess whether the sky is coming or not coming or the rain, get the Christians. They know there is something they know which happens when they say. Emperor Nero welcomed the Christians. But when the Christians started preaching in Rome, the empire started shaking. Everybody was praising this unknown person, unknown vision. Emperor Nero said, bring fire. They burnt Rome, thinking he was burning this person. Every household in Rome and the people, and they killed the Christian, those ones. The mother went to Emperor Nero and said, your father who adopted you and grew you up in this empire. You don't want, he couldn't be happy for you to be doing these type of things. The emperor said, Mom, you did not produce me. He turned on the mom and killed the mom. Are we killing the mom? Is this country, is Africa killing the mom? When you tell me a stadium in a house in Abuja or in Lagos, not Abuja, Lagos, Delta region, it is on water. When you tell me everything in South Sudan is upside down, a fragile peace agreement hangs on, no money to facilitate the soldiers. Rain has come back. Soldiers are running away from the camps. Some have already gone to form their own militias. Are we bewitched? When a railway that goes from Nairobi to Kisumu runs for 12 hours and you do all the work you did not complete in the office, and you reach Kisumu safely, you have your food, your matoke, your ugali, your fish, your wife, your children, they are all in the train. And you have a house in the village. You prefer to run and die on 6 hours for someone to go and make more money and come back. He has to drive so fast, avoid the police, pay police tips, or you prefer going on this railway. These are some of the things that we want to engage next year in our new programs. Let's be topical. Let's be social. This is Punchline Africa Television. Back to you, Miriam. I've opened up. Let's look at the newspapers and then give us the topic. Then we go. What? One person who printed my flyer forgot what stood out for you in Africa, for you, but he's just printed general. And I hope they are all watching. Stephen should tell all of them to have to be online today on Zoom immediately after this show. I would like to talk to you. But Miriam, the topic is what has stood out for you as an individual across Africa, wherever you are, what stood out for you? Is it the corona pandemic? Let's have person. It is the end, the last Sunday before we have Christmas. We shall not be here on Christmas Day to talk. Maybe it will be only me talking alone. Although Miriam has recommended that I go for a holiday, permanent, until I return with the good voice. She needs me alive. It's indeed, you are right. So, what stood out for you? All of you, pick up a topic, discuss it when it comes to that budget. For now, back to you, Miriam. Take us through.
All right, Doc, thank you so much that you did this year. A lot of things happened, especially here in the continent, and we shall get into that. I already have my list here ready, so I'll be happy to share when we get to that time. But right now, let me bring us up to date with the latest from the country by taking us through quickly through the headlines of the leading newspapers here. And on the Sunday Nation, the main headline, battle of the billionaires. Between them, both Raila and Ruto sit atop massive heaps of family resources, running into billions of shillings, and now they both have the backing of super rich individuals who want to determine who rules. This was supposed to be a political contest. It is now shaping up to be a battle of the billionaires, and the stories on page 19, 20, and 21 of the Sunday Nation, and the rich lineup of possible running mates that also is found there, and they're proposing possible running mates there. Agriculture CS Peter Munya, Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui, na Kenya leader Martha Karua, Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua, and Laikipia Governor Nderitu Muriithi. And just beside that, Tabitha, I'm joining politics. That is the CEO of Keroche, and Raila hints at reunion with ANC's Mudavadi. The story is on page 4 of the Sunday Nation. And then we turn our attention to the Sunday Standard, the main headline, as in versus Hustler, the making of Raila Ruto styles. You'll find that on page 8. Moses Kuria on why Raila needs OKA. The stories on page 4 and 5. And inside NAT new laws, you'll find that on page 6. So in a nutshell, that is what we have on the front pages of the two leading newspapers here today.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Take us, Tawish. Let's begin with you. You have heard the headlines. You have listened. I picked what I want to talk to about. Let's hear from you what you think stood out for you as far as today's headline, not the other topic, but today's newspaper headlines, the battle of the billionaires. Is there something which is not working? Both people trying, one is a hustler, calling himself a hustler, but he's going to be, he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. Now, how does this correspond with the hustler narrative? Is what I need an expert to explain to me on that. I have not seen them collecting a hustler to be the vice president. They are looking for another billionaire. I don't know whether Ruto will choose one of the smallest Mkokoteni people to come to be his vice. Then we can believe in his theory. But for me now, David Matsanga, I am sorry. I am aware that you have prepared those years on me and this. Let them come. You will not change my mother having produced me, because I still remain the same man he produced in 1955. I'm still strong here. So when you were not anywhere near there, so it doesn't matter, Ruto. You better tell me the truth that are you going to select a Mkokoteni pusher? Tawish.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ari, and thank you, colleague panelist. Indeed, Dr. Masanga, when you look into what has been happening over the week and of course cascading down over the weekend, there's a lot that has been happening more so in the political space right here in Kenya. And the 2022 momentum appears to be, of course, picking up. And when I read, of course, the kind of messaging that was coming from the main politicians in the country, it does tell you that in as much as we want to live in denial, in as much as we want to ignore and assume that we can be able to achieve our own ambition without the support of our fellow politicians or our fellow countrymen and women, it is nearly impossible. And that is why I'm very, very persuaded that Raila Amolo Odinga, the ODM leader, is a man who has a heart to reach out even to the opponents. He's the only person I've seen who has been coming out genuinely and sincerely reaching out to the perceived opponents in as far as the 2022 general election is concerned. I remember during the NDC of Wiper Party, right here in Nairobi, Raila Odinga was one of the invited chief guests. And when he had an opportunity really to come to the podium and address the Wiper delegates, he did mention that he's come a long way with the Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and he is very certain that their paths will cross again. And yesterday, even during the burial of Musalia Mudavadi's stepmother in Mululu, that is in Vihiga County, I could clearly see the same tone coming from Raila Amolo Odinga. He's a man who is reaching out to fellow politicians. He did mention to Musalia Mudavadi that when he traces back the history, not only the history between himself and Musalia Mudavadi, but even the history between Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and, of course, the father of Musalia Mudavadi, that is Moses Mudavadi, that these are people who share quite a very solid history, and nobody can ignore that particular history. But regardless of the political differences, regardless of the fights that we continue to witness today in the country, he is very certain and confident that by the end of the day, their paths will cross again. So this is a man who has demonstrated that is indeed, he does not want to walk alone, even as we head into 2022 general election, that it is important for us to have all political leaders and all Kenyans come on board under the Azimio la Umoja banner, so that we can be able to champion the unity of purpose for our people. Because again, what is important in this country, before you even talk about the economic models, before you talk about what you want to do for the mama bogas and the borders and all those the downtrodden in our society, we must pursue peace and stability for this country first. Because without peace and stability in this country, then all of those economic models will be useless and they will be geared towards nowhere. So that's why Raila Odinga feels like the most important thing in priority for this country moving into 2022 and even thereafter will be to pursue the unity of purpose. And I think this is a noble objective and noble cause that any right and well-meaning Kenyan should really come on board and support this initiative, regardless of who is going to become president. It is important that the Kenyan people, even the political leaders, will be able to agree by the end of the day, regardless of who wins or loses the 2022 general election. So the call for unity of purpose is really what has stood out for me, especially as championed by Raila Amolo Odinga in the course of this week. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel Wesonga, of the headlines that I've just gone through right now, the leading newspapers. I don't know what stood out for you, and the question that Doctor has just raised. Wesonga.
Daniel.
Okay, so Daniel might not be ready for right now, but there's a headline here I read just a while ago on the Sunday Standard that says, Moses Kuria now says that Raila Odinga needs Oka chiefs. And Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria says if Azimio is to have any realistic chances in 2022, OKA chiefs must be brought back to Raila's fold before he attempts to climb even an anthill, let alone a mountain. So what Moses Kuria here is saying, Raila cannot make it without the support of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, and perhaps Gideon Moi. I don't know, what do you make of that? Tavish, as we wait for Daniel to...
No, I can take it. I can take it.
All right, go ahead.
Tavish, let me take this one, and then you can add on. I think, Miriam...
Need to see you.
Oh, you want to see me? Miriam, the truth is, we need unity. And I have predicted on this platform that you like it or not, at one stage, the Okoa people cannot work with a thief. There is no honor among the thieves. The thieves are thieves. And there is no honor. You can't say there will be a change, there is honor. A thief cannot be honorable. And I don't think Musalia Mudavadi can start working with Ruto. It's impossible. I don't think the only person who could start working with Ruto may be Wetangula, because he's used to those scandals. He's used to those scandals. He can work with Ruto. He doesn't care his name. But the people who care about their names, to be called that you are with Rigaza, Gachagua Rigaza, you are now standing with him on the same platform, a man who is out on Matiang, is talking, he wants to eat Matiang alive. Gachagua, you look at that. People won't be there. So at the end of the day, Raila will cobble. He will cobble a very good set work, a very grand unity of purpose. Remember, this election needs almost billions. The nation has told you a battle of the billionaires. Tell me where Wetangula can get billions to run this country. Even the deposit alone. To be a presidential vote, was it 400 million? 40 million or something like that. Is this
4 billion. 4 billion.
4 billion to be a presidential candidate, isn't it? No, the one you deposit at the IEBC. It was about 40 million.
No, it's less than 5 million. I think, but around 5 million, 4 million there.
No. That is, you are talking of you check, Tawish.
Yes.
The 5 billion is for smaller people fish. But for presidential candidate, it's not 5 million Kenya shillings. It's more. They raised the stake. I think you are talking about 5 million is for Senate or something. You check again, you'll see. But whatever it is, you need money. And when you look at all these guys, unless they have gone to George Soros, and the George Soros has stolen some money and given them. Even if they do that on their own, they cannot. So they will come to Raila Amolo Odinga. He can mobilize, put their resources together in order to get a better country. 2, there is nothing difficult. I can see people who rejected BBI have come back, Miriam. Some of them are saying they would move a motion in Parliament to change the budget, the finance law, so that we go back to BBI. Then you say, aha, why did they refuse BBI? So I think Moses Kuria has a point there. The point that Moses Kuria has is we needed to, that's why we are going slow on, no full scale on the Oka people. You can see people who are leaning on Jubilee side and ODM side. They are not hitting hard on Oka people because they might be our friends tomorrow. We are waiting for them to declare their interest. If they don't declare, then we know they are not coming with us. Then we prepare another strategy. But I think Kuria on this one, he has it and he has it wrong. He has assumed that William Ruto will carry 90% of the mountain. If strategically Raila Odinga chose a good running mate, he will be followed by millions of Kenyans, irrespective of the region. People want unity. People don't want this. They are saying the truth. You notice that the deputy president's operations seem to be dwindling. It's almost coming to a halt. Thank you, Tawish.
Oh, yes, thank you so much, Daktari. And just to farm up on what Daktari has said, indeed, when I read that particular posting by, of course, Gatundu MP, Moses Kuria, I was able to understand that the appeal for One Kenya Alliance principles to work with Raila Amolo Odinga will only but solidify and make it almost certain for Raila Odinga really, or increase his prospects of becoming the country's next president come the August 2022 general election. And what we must appreciate, therefore, is that Raila Odinga hasn't quite closed his door. He's made it, he's left it open, and he has all along been making such signals that he intends and is willing to work with all politicians who are of the same ideology, of the same principles, and of the same goodwill like his. And that's why you see, normally he says that we would like to work with like-minded politicians. That is why we have so many political parties in Kenya today that have chosen to support Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja, that they are going to work together and make sure that Raila Odinga becomes the country's next president. So I suppose what Moses Kuria said is indeed correct, but it will not be proper for anyone to insinuate perhaps that Raila Odinga has not been so much keen on working with One Kenya Alliance or the former allies in the NASA coalition, because he has always come out in the open and everybody can read and see it, that he's willing to work with the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, and others, so that moving forward, we want not only to win this election, but we want to win as a one family, a one united family. I think that is the most, the biggest clarion call. That is not just about winning the election, but we want to win this election as a one united and a big family. So what will be the essence of winning an election when some people feel like they've been left out? Then the whole thing of bringing Kenyans together, the crusade that Raila Odinga has been championing for in the country, will not make so much sense if the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, and others will really feel like they've been left out. And that is why it is important, because even when you looked into the prospects of all these presidential contenders, those who have declared interest to contest for presidency, one will really agree that the person who stands a better chance will be Raila Amolo Odinga. And maybe on the other hand, the Deputy President William Ruto, although he has so much of strategy really to do, so much of groundwork to do, if he at all can make any significant significance in as far as the 2022 general election is concerned. So I largely agree, Dr. that is important that the likes of Musalia Mudavadi be reminded all through that it's not just about having your name on the ballot, but what does it count by the end of the day if your name is on the ballot, but you don't have a significant number of voters really coming on board. So Musalia Mudavadi coming to work with Raila Odinga will be really helping Mudavadi, not more of Raila Odinga. And I think that is how it should be viewed. Because for me, and how I've read politics for quite some time in the country, Raila Amolo Odinga has been able, for example, to make inroads and even get substantial votes in Western Kenya with or without Mudavadi. He's been working with the likes of Oparanya and others. We have Eugene Wamalwa as we speak now, but that is not important. Important is we want all to come and board the Azimio la Umoja train so that we can all move together as one family of Kenyans. So I think that should be the clarion call, and I strongly believe and support Moses Kuria's sentiments. Dr. Submit.
Okay, thank you so much. And I see that Daniel Wesonga is back with us. Wesonga, before we move on to the next subject, I don't know what you make of this Moses Kuria's sentiment, saying that Raila cannot climb even an anthill without the help of the OKA principles.
Yes, thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, like my good brother Tawishol Assassina, as well as Dr. Matsanga David, I'm of the opinion that for the former Prime Minister to be able to foment a very formidable force in regards to the 2022 general elections, he must bring on board his former allies, that is Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Moses Wetangula, so to say. So in my perspective, I believe the 2017 matrix, the 2017 matrix that they had during the presidential election should remain intact. But also you have to understand that this has to be a coalition of the willing, you know. No one is being forced to support a certain individual, but because this country has a destiny with the future, then we must come together and support a candidate who will be able to take this country to in the right direction. And you've heard the president talk about maybe being careful about who Kenyans elect going into the next dispensation. And I believe it should come upon themselves. They should actually be persuaded by the admonitions of conscience that this country cannot be handed over to people who will grapple its economy. This country cannot be handed to people who will loot the public coffers to the extinction. So to me, I think let the former NASA principals who have culminated into One Kenya Alliance sit back and be able to resonate with the head of state, be able to resonate with the majority of Kenyans, that as a country, we need to move this country into the right direction. President Uhuru Kenyatta has done his part as the president. You can see a number of projects that are being rolled out by the government, even here in Nairobi. And we believe the only good choice that you can make is by leaving the country into the hands of someone who will be able to continue with the legacy project that we are seeing at the moment. So therefore, I agree with the sentiments of Moses Kuria that Raila Odinga needs One Kenya Alliance, and that will have given him a boost. And of course, right now, owing to the fact that he's been trying to court the Mount Kenya region, I understand that it will actually give him an edge over his top contender, competitor rather, who is William Samoei Ruto. But as it is, we need everyone on board. And just like Dr. Matsanga always says, we need unity of purpose. And unity of purpose, knowing that we are putting our country before any personal selfish interests. That is the only way that we'll be able to have a presidency delivered to Right Honorable Raila Odinga. So we should not dismiss the One Kenya Alliance. We should bring everybody on board and make it a coalition of the willing. Just something like what we had in 2002, where Mwai Kibaki had a landslide victory. So to me, I think, Miriam, it is good that we preach the gospel of getting everyone on board. I submit.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that conversation before we move on to the next topic.
No, I think I have a problem. Not on that conversation, I have a problem with Tabitha. Let me say when you are seeing me. I have a problem with Tabitha Karanja. The worst thing that you can do is to mix both. To leave what God gave you to do and try to be an architect when you're a grave digger. It's very dangerous. And either the building collapses when you try to be an architect, or it doesn't work at all. If I were Tabitha, I could not be swayed. Tabitha has been a great friend of Raila Odinga for a long time, a supporter of Raila Odinga. But the cheapness of Nakuru politics brought in by Susan Kihika, a daughter of a millionaire who grabbed everything in Nakuru, you know, and who now goes louder. She's the loudest, calling others names. Yet the father grabbed almost everything. You know, we haven't started a real campaign where people can also be told that even in this Jubilee government, she has been the beneficiary. We don't want to go into details of their businesses. They have been the beneficiary. They have been in the forefront, rolling the big vehicles, big ones, you know, making money where you find $1 million to somebody is like toilet paper. Uses it. These are the people who have gained in this government of Uhuru Kenyatta. There are people who worked very hard for Uhuru Kenyatta to be where he is today. Some of them are still with him. They have never gained anything more than the people who are shouting today, who were paupers. In 2013, they were mere paupers with their lips white. Some of them even wanted to Kenyatta jailed. They wanted Kenyatta jailed, put in jail. Today, they are millionaires, multi-millionaires. They are benefited out of these programs. The people who worked hard, the people who sat down, crafted, and said, come what may, we love Uhuru Kenyatta not because of money, but we love him because of the vision he has for Kenya and Africa. We shall work. Whether we go down, we shall go down with him. If we go up, we go up with him. The seriousness of this matter, which you see today lingering around, is people don't speak frankly when problems are there. They don't speak at each other. There is a saying that we should speak with one another. No. When there is a problem of this nature, and remember, Miriam, speak at each other and solve it. Sema hapana, wewe ndio mtu mbaya. Wewe ndio ulifanya hii. What did Uhuru Kenyatta do that guarantees, that made William Ruto run away from the government and goes to Nakuru to open a police station, which he knows CDF money is not the money of the MP, but it is the money of the taxpayer given to develop the constituency, which you cannot put a plaque on the signpost that it was done by Miriam Ogutu. Did you see that happen in Nakuru yesterday? Why did he leave the government? Why did he leave? Then he smuggles himself in to cause chaos in the same region. You see, Nakuru was the epicenter of all this violence. And we are going back there to create animosity, Miriam. This will be very disastrous for us. I know we have reached the top of our hour. We go to other topic, but this needs to be these 2 points. If I were Tabitha Garanja, I would not mix my business with politics. I would concentrate on my politics, remove my case, win the case of my KRA, not to be mafia, not to use mafia to bring down the KRA boss, because these people are using mafia now. The people who have problem with the government have become a mafia media. If you talk much, they want to finish you. They send you threats of similar to the Italian mafia. Because you are educating Kenyans about a certain person that don't vote a man who said it was not 21 billion, but it is 7 billion. What wrong did you do? Then his mafia come on the phone to threaten you and say, oh, we are writing about you, we are finding about you. Write. You can even write if you want. To hell with you. What will you change? Will you change my age? Will you kill my children? Will you remove their brains? You are not God to give me powers. I have a right to choose whether I like Uhuru Kenyatta or I like Raila or what. I stood the other time. I was very critical of Raila Odinga. But Raila Odinga never came to threaten me. But Ruto is threatening me, threatening people, sending people to threaten us. Do you remember the visit of Ruto in Kampala, the last visit? He went, he's a friend of the Minister of Agriculture of Uganda. They are causing a problem between the two. Did you know that they are business partners? So if you are telling the Kenya government this, is that wrong? You are correcting a mess. Did you know why this war is there of eggs? and the milk, they are trying to punish Uhuru Kenyatta. Because the milk of Uhuru Kenyatta is sold in Kampala. These are business partners. They have not hidden. Let's not misinform the presidents of these two countries. Kenya and Uganda are very good friends. We are friends. We work together. We live together. But don't bring in your business enmity because you wanted to punish Uhuru Kenyatta, bring a stalemate. We have collected the data of all companies that operate under these two gentlemen. So you go on threatening people, you think people don't have your data. These are problems that media, this television, some of these television that are where Ruto has paid editors not to speak. It's not me, it's not mine. This one is going to speak until I perish. And if I perish, I have trained all of you to continue with the good work. Yes. Yes. We can't have an imaginary war of food stuff not coming from there. We all depend on each other, Jermaine. But someone has now hated, has now quietly behind, he said, punish them, punish them. And he is quietly telling people, hiyo kitu yenyu tutanunua kwa bei, have you seen? What will you sell when you are now telling people to punish the other farmers because of milk, that of Kenyatta of Brookside and other things of Kenyatta? Jermaine, let's grow up. Kenya and Uganda needs each other. I have never stood here and said, I condemn the government of Uganda going trading with Kenya. Never. I have never in my 37 years of my struggle for freedom, for the people of parties, for parties to return it to Uganda, I am a proud guy. I have never said put sanctions on Uganda. Never. My mouth, cut back the tongue, cut it. God, if I've ever said that. I have never said put sanctions on my country. Because sanctions in my country will hurt my people more. Will hurt the lower people more. Have you seen how Kangarai made a very terrible mistake and they went to the grave very miserable? You know, there is a good way of going to the grave and there is a very bad way of going to the grave. You might not be, you might not know, but those who are around will know it's gone miserably. I've stood for Africa. If I go now, everybody will come and say I'm a Pan-Africanist. Which topic in Africa I have not said? Didn't I bring Riaka Machar? Were you not there? Miriam, didn't I bring Riaka Machar on this television? Didn't I shout about Riaka Machar? When they had imprisoned Riaka Machar, didn't I shout? I said it. Didn't I say it, Miriam? And Tawish, all of you were with me. Riaka Machar, I interviewed him. I said, I am now telling IGAD to release Riaka Machar from South Africa. Didn't I pick a phone and tell Lindiwe Zulu to tell Zuma, why are you holding Riaka Machar? Am I a Sudanese? I am not. Some people even call me that I come from Congo Forest. Yeah, yes, everybody black came from there anyway. I am born in one of the mountains. I'm not from Congo Forest. I'm not a Congolese. I'm not Harvey Nelson Harvey. My mother is a Ugandan. My father is a Ugandan. Pure. Wow. and they are of the same tribe. And I come from the slopes of Mount Elgon on the other side. So if you want to know, there is nobody on the imaginary border between Kenya and Uganda. We are all the same. If we want to claim each other, we can claim our people from here. I can name them here now. I'm a relative of Bishop Wabukala. I'm a real cousin. So let him go home. Let's go home. Hey! You can see the brains that are here. Because I'm saying this because Kenyans are found of this thing. Oh, you are foreigner where? Let's claim our people here and you will see whether you will have anybody in Western Kenya. And the rule to return it to Northern Uganda. Whether you might not even have Raida. Eh? Yes. This Tawish might not have a home to go. I'm telling you, because Maasai came from our mountain. In Bugisu, we call Maasai, which is Maasai in Narok. You came on moving away with cattle until you arrived here. Have you looked at your tree, Tawish? The family tree, where do you come from? Miriam, have you looked at your family tree? Wesonga, have you looked at your family tree? You originate from that mountain. You pass through the mountain, all of you. You came from northern Uganda, you passed in Tororo, you ended up the ocean. Mumia Wanga came from where? My tribe. They came and settled here. Then you find the people telling you you're a foreigner. Let's claim our people back. Wabukara, let's go home. You will not have a bishop here. Hey, you will not have a chairman of electoral commission. EESC is my relative. He can't. He's a man of God. He can't come on TV and say, I'm not Masanga's relative. So we have this cheap politics. Jigoism, ethnic chauvinism, killing Africa, which Nyerere never liked. That's why Africa is sinking. That's why Nigeria is sinking. Because of ethnic egoism. You accept thieves. When you talk of a foreigner is a foreigner. So what? But a foreigner is the one who comes to the hotel, then you run there. Why do you run to the foreigner then? Because you need his ideas. So we are not going to keep quiet when we have a cheap propaganda of stopping food from Kenya going to Uganda and Uganda coming to Kenya. We coexist. At my age, I cannot preach disunity. I preach coexistence. You can go to heaven or hell and go and tell those who taught you, not me. I was taught very well in the proper schools. And with my father caning me when I was wrong. You find You see, at times, Miriam, enough is enough. You find even a man who has never left his village toilet also insulting you because of social media. Yeah. So now we're ending the year. Let's end it there, toughly, before we go to Christmas. Don't insult. Just learn and give your ideas, but don't come to insult. The whole island of Britain had no owners. The whole island of Britain had no owners. Even the Queen came from somewhere else. But they have grown there. Are they not living in Britain? Isn't it Great Britain? You vote Ruto, let's vote Raila. So what will you do? We shall influence people to vote. We shall tell policies of Raila, of unity of purpose. You can go to hell if you want. But we shall tell that Kenya, after Uhuru Kenyatta, needs a uniting factor. Woo! A uniting factor is Raila Odinga. Wachana na hii mambo yenyu ingine hii. Rubbish. Just changing shirts here and there. Yellow beads to show to younger women, girls running after him. Has he got any value? Wacha kampeni yanze utaona. Tutamulima haki ya Mungu. Atishatisha watu hiyo, kutishatisha, kutuma watu kutisha mafia. Anatishatisha watu. Ho tutakuua. Nyinyi mnaua, nyinyi mnafikiri mnaua. Nyinyi ndio mnajua kuua kushinda watu, si ndio? Eh? You see, when you go to kill people, you must also leave space to be killed. We don't want any nonsense on our television station. Go and play anywhere there. Miriam, back to you. What stood out in Africa? For us, what stood for you in Africa? There are so many topics that you can take. Me, I have mine. I will explain what stood for me, the most important thing in Africa. What stood out for me. The rest, let's continue. Thank you very much. The Kenyan politics, let's not bring in disunity. Mrs. Tabitha Karanja, if I were you, I would stick in business. Politics is not good. It's sour. That's it.
All right, Doc, thank you so much. I think I share the same sentiment sometimes. Okay, we've seen, even people like Raila Odinga and Ruto and the rest, they do have some business ventures, and it has worked well with their political ambitions. So I don't know if that will be the case for Tabitha Karanja, but, when I saw this headline today, I was a bit worried. I don't know if that will work well for her. But anyway, she has said that she'll be running for the senator seat there in Nakuru. So I will see how that will work out for that. And the story is on page 10 and 11 of the Sunday Nation. So if you're interested, get yourself a copy and see what really is pushing Tabitha Karanja, the CEO of Keroche Breweries, to want to join the murky waters of politics. All right, so that marks the end of our Kenyan topics. So now let's get to the rest of the topics, especially across Africa. And as Dr. Matsanga there has said, what we'll be looking at today, being the last show on the African Showdown for the year, is what stood out for us individually for the year 2021. And I think before I say mine, I'd like to bring in Daniel and then Tawish, and then I think Doc will complete the topic for us. But I'll start with you, Daniel. I don't know what stood out for you, the stories that stood out for you across the continent 2021.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, when we speak about the year 2021, is the year where we've seen a lot of coup d'etats happening across many countries in Africa. And Dr. Matsanga had talked about some few African countries. I don't know, I wish I had the specific number, around 5 or so countries that were likely to crumble under the coup d'etat that we've been seeing across Africa. And of course, that has come to fulfillment. And I think that is like a prophecy that has happened. And that just shows you how much interference is happening across our continent, and how unstable our governments are in the face of so many NGOs setting shop across the continent. So that, if not checked, perhaps is a trickle-down effect that could actually affect the rest of the African countries that are facing instability. Right now, as we are speaking, Ethiopia is in a crisis. Right now, we are speaking, Libya is falling apart. Right now, as we are speaking, Chad is falling apart, Guinea, and so many other African countries. In Mozambique, would it have not been for President Paul Kagame to send his troops to Mozambique, today the situation will have escalated to who knows, maybe. And perhaps that shows you that as a continent, despite maybe combating the pandemic that it is at the moment, we also face very, very deep problems when it comes to our security matters, and that is in concerns to interference and other foreign actors who are hell-bent perhaps to undermine the governments of the day. You can have a look at whatever is happening in Zimbabwe, regardless of the fact that President Emerson Mnangagwa is doing a very, very commendable job. The opposition seems not to sleep. They are actually sabotaging his efforts day in, day out. And these are the same individuals who are receiving funding from the Open Society Foundation of George Soros, the CIA through the USAID, and many other donor agencies which are working in cohorts to ensure that we have instability in Africa. So to me, I think whatever that has stood out for me is this falling of the African countries and the instability that has been instigated by the Western NGOs in these particular democracies. So I believe, in as much as we have been having a quieter year in this side of the continent, in Kenya in particular, we must agree to the fact that our neighbors have not been quite well in terms of these political upheavals. So heading to 2022, I believe Africans will come together. The African leadership will be able to look at whatever has been bedeviling these countries, and we should come together and actually be able to combat this evil hand of the Western interference that has been backsliding our democracies. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel Wesonga. Samuel Sawish, what stood out for you in Africa in 2021?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Of course, so much really stood out for me, but I'm going to pick one particular matter, especially that relationship between Kenya and Somalia. And what really comes out to me is the fact that Kenya decided to stand its ground, and as far as the maritime dispute is concerned, because again, Miriam, had we not had a president who is resilient when it comes to decision making, a person who means well for the prosperity and the posterity of this country, then we would have seen, for example, even as we speak now, maybe Kenya would have ceded the ground in as far as the Indian Ocean waters boundary is concerned. So President Kenyatta coming out and, of course, taking that vow that is not going to allow an inch, take or give an inch of the Kenyan soil. To me, it really stood out, and because again, there comes a time when you have to make a decision, and whether or not it is popular, it is not the big deal. The big deal is it the right thing really to do? And maybe President Kenyatta would have seen so much bashing coming from different quarters, and fortunately, even politicians right here in the country appeared to be politicizing that matter, as though if they were in power, they would have allowed Somalia to take, of course, a part of Kenya's waters. And to President Uhuru Kenyatta coming out and standing his ground and saying he's not going to allow this to happen, really spoke of a man who stands by his word, and a man who took an oath really to protect the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of this nation. To me, it did stand out, Miriam. And apart from so many of the things that, of course, happen in the continent of Africa, that to me was so dear, because again, it touches at the core, heart and soul of the sovereignty of a nation. I submit, Miriam.
Right, thank you so much, Samuel Tawish. So before I ask Doc, what stood out for him this year, perhaps I give my list. I have a whole number of things that stood out for me this year, and of course, being that show usually did the afternoon, which I miss so much. The Africa Diaspora Dispatches. I've been able to cover some of these stories. And the first one, of course, is the coup that happened in Sudan. I think we've talked about it and we saw it coming. I don't know how the rest of the world did not see that coming. We've seen how the events have been transpiring across Sudan, and so a coup was imminent, and we saw what happened there. So that is one of the key things that stood out for me. And also the jailing of former South African President Jacob Zuma. I think that is unprecedented in this continent. So that also stood out for me. And as we speak right now, the case is back in court, and the prosecutors are asking Zuma to be returned back to jail. Remember, he was given, he was allowed to go and serve the rest of the time at home due to some some problems with his health. But now they're asking if he could be returned back to jail. So that stood out for me this year, as well as the rest of Nnamdi Kanu, and we saw how that played out, and we've seen how Biafrans have been out here agitating. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested and returned back to Nigeria illegally, and we've seen how that has played out. And also Ethiopian war that marked 1 year this year. Unfortunately, there's only deaths that have continued, and human catastrophe has continued there in the Tigrayan region. And of course, to top it up is the decision by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to decide to join his forces on the front lines. We were all worried for his life because we saw how that played out. Was it in the country in Chad, how the president there was taken out when he decided to join the soldiers there in the front line. So that also stood out for me. And of course, the Ugandan elections that took place in February, that also was the highlight of one of the key, stories that we covered throughout this year. And we saw how those elections panned out, the chaos, everything else that came with that. And of course, you've mentioned the Maritimes. I'll not get into that, but also the Zambian elections. They now have a new president, and of course the death of former Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli that gave way to the first woman president in Tanzania. That is just a few of the stories that stood out for me throughout 2021. So Doc, what stood out for you?
Miriam, frankly speaking, what stood out for me, I have very many reasons, and I have so many of them. But what stood out for me is all the things that I predicted, which you have read, are the similar ones that I had predicted together with you. We predicted a coup in Sudan. We said it is coming. It took only 1 month. It arrived. All what you have said, we said it. We warned the people. We warned Africa. Africa never listened. Let me bring you something that you have forgotten. What stood out for me is a man picking his handbag and arriving in a court which is looking for him. Three things stood out for me. That's one. Mr. Paulo Gicheru would get my award for being the first African to walk into the court which is looking for him and say, I am here. It stood out for me. Why do I say it stood out for me? It helped me. And it is going to help me very soon. Very soon. I am an opponent of ICC. I hate ICC. But time is coming, and I know Miriam is going to ask me a question. What will you do when your enemy is taken there? Do you support him, or what do you do? But for me, what has stood out, it is not who goes there. I want to tell you what has stood out for me is the courage and the start of this case, a fresh start of this case. While we are going into an election in Kenya, it stood out for me, Miriam. Don't you see that as very outstanding? The whole of 2021 stood out when this guy just ended from nowhere. For almost 6-8 years, they have been looking for him. He just went and said, I've come, here I am. And then what stood out for me in that episode is that he went with his laptop and his phone. Don't you think that is strange? Very strange that Mr. Paul Gicheru handed over himself to the ICC. He has become a pain. He's now a pain in Mr. Ruto's eyes every time. When he sees this picture, he doesn't feel comfortable. It could determine the elections of Kenya. With the laws that Kenya is making, that once you have a problem, you know that law is about to pass. You know that, Miriam. Once you have a problem of such magnitude, you don't touch leadership of this country. Don't you think that stood out for me? And the rate of killing witnesses are disappearing again. I will tell you why I'm happy on this. Something is ruffling, which I did not like. I warned some people, let me talk like a President Museveni a bit. You know, I might get some energy. I warned the people. I told them, things are not very good. We might rattle this situation. We leave it. Look at that. Something is rattling in the ICC. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. And it could stop people's career forever. Witnesses are disappearing. Who knows the witnesses? Where they are? Who is revealing the identity of witnesses? Where they are? You know, things are beginning. The international community, now that America has returned to ICC, with Joe Biden in it, you have a problem. That's point number one. Point number two for me, what stood out is for God to allow most of us to be alive in Africa. From March 2020, are we finishing 2 years here? We reached an epic time when it was predicted that Africa would die and perish. Miriam, we didn't perish. I want to thank some people in Africa who played a pivotal role in the fight against the safeguarding of their population. Most of the African presidents were done. You did a great job. But the following presidents, thank you very much for doing a good job to protect the people under the COVID circumstances. One, Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta, thank you very much. You played a role in making sure that people in Kenya don't die like in India. Two, President Kagame of Rwanda. Thank you very much. You played a role. You stopped any bad behavior that could make Rwandese die almost. President number 3 is President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda. Thank you very much. You did a great job on the question of COVID-19. Your measures made Ugandans to survive. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that. We might disagree on a number of things, which we do, including my little money that was not paid. If it is paid, even if it's not paid, God has paid me. Peace has returned in Uganda. But you did a great job. A great job on COVID-19. The third president and the fourth president is President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. I tell you, I want to tell you frankly that the guy in Zimbabwe, there are no patients. There were no patients. Given the conditions of the hospitals in Zimbabwe, he did a very great job. The fifth person is the Prime Minister of Lesotho. You remember, Lesotho was the last country on the African continent to get a COVID patient or case when it was announced in China. Those 5 played a pivotal role in the fight against COVID-19. And another thing that stood out for me is God being very good to us, that today we are very alive. Miriam, I submit.
All right, Doc, indeed, thank you so much. And also, maybe before we forget, on the global platform, we saw the taking over of Afghanistan there by the Taliban and the US and the rest of the Western forces scrambling to leave Afghanistan. I think that is one of the key things in the international field. That treaty was a highlight in this year. And of course, that war in the middle of the year between Israel and Palestine. Do you remember the bombing?
Yes.
Yes. Also, yes, in the international fronts. But I agree with you, Doc. The issues that you put forth. So I don't know if there's anybody else with perhaps something else that maybe.
There is something else we have forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
What stood again when we come back in Kenya? The maritime border dispute between Kenya and Somalia, which I predicted that it could cause a tension within the region. And that region tension has not gone away, Miriam. The way we wanted to solve it is not the way. What stood out for me is for Kenya should have done what they did at late hours, to simply go away, never to attend this court, listen, watch, and read their newspapers, because it has no teeth to bite. The killing of a president in Chad, which you have talked about, of Mali, of Chad president, a slaughter of a standing president, a ruling president slaughtered on the battlefield by rebels known by African Union and France, also stood out for us. Do you know that the African Union chairperson knew the rebels were in Egypt who came to kill Idris Deby? Nobody shouted. You know that man has been forgotten like that. His son was installed to power. The French are doing business with the son. They don't want to hear you anymore anywhere. You can even complain and complain and complain to the world. Nobody wants to know. That stood out. Perhaps in Britain, what stood out in 2021, is it 2021 when we left Brexit? Yeah, when we left the European Union, we are in chaos. Everybody went to buy food thinking it was not going to be enough. It stood out when you see queues and queues of people buying in preparation fuel. I went to Britain and there was no fuel. Recently, it also stood out. For the first time, I saw a queue as long as 20 miles for petrol in the United Kingdom. I don't know whether the production has a clip of that. Queue cars lining in a developed world for petrol. That was October when I went to United Kingdom for the first time after lockdown. I went back home and I found no taxi to take me home from the airport, because my wife could not come down to the airport. There was no fuel. Miriam, it was very embarrassing for a first world to lack a petrol. So it stood out for me. And then probably Liverpool for me stood out. I don't care about the rest of your teams. I'm not part of them. I'm a Liverpool follower. I don't walk alone. I walk with very many people. Tawish will talk about Leicester. I don't know what Daniel, you support which team?
Doctor, you'll be shocked that lately I jumped ship and I'm now supporting Liverpool.
Oh, okay. So, Wesonga, can you tell us something more? Wesonga, can you tell us which team do you support? I know Miriam does not have a team at all. Or she has a team, but she doesn't mention her team.
I watch football every now and then, but I'm not that invested. But I do enjoy a good match.
And finally, don't forget when you go back for Christmas to pray for Gaddafi's son, the only surviving family member of Gaddafi, who has come back, whom some of us fought against ICC. He is standing for presidency of Libya. I think the presidency is over. They are counting the votes. So thank you. Those are some of the things, highlights that I saw. The Ethiopian war, I can't talk much. And the last thing that you should not forget, for the first time in 20 years, in 21 years, a president from Zimbabwe could visit the United Kingdom. That also stood out for me. Emerson Mnangagwa, for the first time, stepped on British soil since 1998. Isn't it a miracle that the British started warming up for good relationship with Zimbabwe? And up to now, it is silently going on. Another thing you should not forget is Mr. H.K. Hakilema, the president of Zambia, which media has mentioned the elections in Zambia. You have forgotten Hakilema appointed the prison warder as the chief of prisons, the one who guarded him, who looked after him very nicely. When he became the president, he sacked the other one and appointed the younger man to be the chief of prisons, Commissioner General of Prisons. Doesn't it stand out for you? It teaches when you are in a position, be humble to others. You never know where he will repay you. The president was charged with treasonable offenses. But this prisoner used to steal even food. This warder used to keep him, even he give him allowances, saying you are a leader of opposition, doesn't matter, we shall not lock you much outside, inside, stand here, have sunshine. That's very good news. Of course, you have mentioned my country, I don't mention. That one I left to you as an expert. You are an expert on Uganda. And I wish you very good luck. I did my best, Miriam, on Uganda, and I tried my best to get political parties working. They are working. The Messages never wanted parties. Now they are enjoying the parties. So pray to God that one day maybe my children will enjoy the parties. And that's it. That's the best we can do. The worst that we had, now we are finishing the best that stood. What was the worst for you, Miriam, as we conclude? We have only 80 minutes. We shall use 8. The worst of all, because we are not going to meet here again, Mama and Tawish. What was the worst for you?
I think the worst for me was that report by the United Nations over the things that are happening there in Ethiopia, and a lot of, rape is now used as a weapon of war there. So, and a lot of beheadings of even children. So that is that was not some very good news for me as an African. And of course, the flooding that has continued to displace people in South Sudan. I think the people of South Sudan have gone through so much. And it's just one tragedy after the other. And sometimes you wonder, when will they ever catch a break and just sit down in their country and enjoy, what is happening there? So I think I'm still holding my breath. Hopefully,
You are holding your breath for Sudan, South Sudan.
But yeah, I'm still holding my breath. That hopefully they'll be able to implement the articles of the revitalized peace agreement of 2019. But I did not like that this year came and passed, and we still have soldiers in the containment sites. We still don't have. It's just a few, I think, months ago, President Salva Kiir decided to appoint them to constitute parliament. But other things that are really important, very important aspects of this 2018 revitalized peace agreement are not implemented. So I'm very saddened that 2021 has passed and the situation is still the same. We still have South Sudanese, living in very bad conditions in this refugee camp. So that really saddened me and still continues to sadden me. Of course, the deaths that have been reported across the continent from COVID-19, I know it's not as much compared to the rest of the world, but still we've really felt, the effects of this pandemic in our hospitals, and perhaps this will be a good challenge for our leaders across the continent to try and really ensure that they work on our health systems across the continent. I don't know what else stood out for me, but I think for now that those are what I can remember. Perhaps the worst, and maybe I'm disappointed that it could have been different.
Okay. Tawish, the worst of your moment, what was the worst on the continent? Tawish, I think it's gone. Miriam.
Yes.
For me, the worst was 300 bodies of Somali troops found in Tigray. That's one of them. How did the Somali people arrive there? The second one, which shocked me, is an MP in Uganda Parliament who said, Miriam, in Uganda there is nobody who sleeps. So I thought people sleep. But he said the rich are equally sleepless like the poor. And this MP went ahead to explain that the rich in Uganda have built a fence and they have put their wire electricity around it. When something touches the car, they wake up to see who's touching the car. Then he went back and said, also the poor outside the fence don't sleep because they are hungry. They have nothing to eat, or they have no job, no money. That also is the worst moment of my life in a country where food is available at a cheaper price. You can buy matoke for 5 pounds, 5 Kenya shillings is a bunch of matoke. And you can eat it twice in a day, and the people sleep hungry. Then the rich ones sleep while looking at their property because it could be stolen by the poor. And they build a house, put a rents, windows barbed with metals. That stood out for me. But talking the last one, as we go, South Sudan, as you said, can I tell you the truth? We don't have hope. We have just postponed the war. Take my word. Until they come back to General Garanga's version, what is the best unit of South Sudan. A war can only end when you start from human rights investigations. Very many people kill the people. Some people don't know where their fathers and the mothers and the parents are. You are telling them you do a peace process. Which one is it, Miguel? Have you ever seen something like that? When we went to do a war between us, between the peace process of Konyi and the Uganda government, can I tell you, we started with accountability. Is there no peace in northern Uganda today? Even when Museveni called my money, he never paid me my money for the services that I work. Dr. Riek and Salva Kiir were going to pay me my money, Mama. Museveni stood up in Kampala and said, don't pay him the money. I will pay him. They have never paid me. But there is nobody going to raise a gun again in northern Uganda because we started with accountability. So when you tell me about South Sudan, I start shaking in my seat here. That is just a postponement. A postponement. They have postponed a problem because they chose a wrong mediator called General Obasanjo. He came to Juba. He recorded the records, he took records of those who killed people. He went and sat in a hotel somewhere, doctored the document. You know what? Why is it that the world changed? Before we go, Miriam, it is 2 minutes to 4. We are going on dot. I want to ask one question. Why are we Africans hated so much? Why are we hated? In Britain, in Europe, Yugoslavian war, people started with human rights. They put a court which stopped the war, isn't it? Yugoslavian tribunal. All the generals, when they heard of the tribunal, everybody laid down arms, isn't it? Now wazungu in the Security Council wanakuja hapa na trousers zao na skirts. They are running around here in this continent. Wanatuambia sisi mufanye peace agreement. We shall give you money for peace to sit in a hotel and drink, eat sausage and go home. How will you attain peace? Show me. This one is just temporary. If you left Salva Kiir and Riek in one room, you will find your wall blown up. They don't like each other. Because each one, even Riek has lost a child. Do you know Riek lost a son in this war? It's painful. Salva Kiir has lost people on the other side. Painful. It needs accountability. Agenda number 5, accountability. What has brought Kenya to where you are today? Why are you here? Why are we saying Azimio ya Umoja? Azimio ya Umoja? Are you not looking for accountability? Before you go to elections. Azimio means unity, isn't it? Kiswahili, I don't know, Miriam, tell me. Azimio la umoja is unity. Azimio means what?
I think the purpose or the intention of uniting, if I'm not wrong.
Purpose, yes.
Unity of purpose.
Why are we coming back? We are coming back because the late Kofi Annan told you agenda number what? 4. You didn't do it. Have you seen where we have come back? It's exactly the one. That's why you find now Ruto running away from one party and distancing himself completely from this party. I've seen the party has made another T-shirt with a red color and with a dove only. We have gone back to DNA. We are bringing our shirt red. Kabisa. I'm there also. Even if we remain myself and Kenyatta, we shall remain there on the two of us. But because we didn't do unit of purpose, we did not do accountability. Look at the South Sudan, accountability. 386,000,000 people perished. Miriam, they perished. They went down. The battle, we were seeing the battle here. I was seeing the battle. I have friends who perished, whom I used to know in South Sudan. They were killed in cold blood. What are you going to do about it? Then you tell me there's peace. We have just postponed. Tumepostpone karibu, tuko kwa interval. Kipindi ya kulala salama bado. Ngoja kipindi ya kulala salama. You have no money, you have not given the country money to do their containment process, no money. Sudan is surviving. I don't know how they are surviving. Civil servants have gone without cash for almost a year. If you ask an ambassador asking for his salary, he can't even give you a pay slip. You say, my friend, you are very rich, let me even give you a loan if they ever pay. So we must help these countries in 2022. Unfortunately, every African country is talking about elections. Even Sudan itself is talking about what? South Sudan itself is talking about elections. Well, how would you hold it? Can you hold elections in South Sudan now? You think it's a solution? Can it be a solution? I mean, to me, I think there's a lot of egoism. Both Riek and Salva Kiir, they seem to be the stumbling block. If I were the AU, since they have reached the retirement age, AU should pass the age when leaders should retire. Yes. It would be very good. You know, we don't discipline people, man. Kama umefika 90, enda, tuache. Because at 90, you can't operate a nuclear weapon. Button, you can't say, you say, bring glasses. They have put on glasses, say, bring more. You only the number, this is 1, and Russia has attacked you already. 2, Russia has attacked. 3, by the time you reach the last digit of the nuclear weapon, your New York is finished. That's why they put 2 terms. Enda nyumbani. Kini Afrika, tuko namna hivyo. Asante sana. Asante, nashukuru sana. I wish all of you, the viewers and others listening who have been listening to us, a good Christmas. This is our first Sunday of broadcast. The next Sunday where we shall broadcast will be a new year. Isn't it? When is first?
Yeah, but probably we'll have another show before the end of the week, perhaps just about our last show of the year, and then we will connect with the viewers.
No, we shall have a show, but not the last Sunday.
At least one more. Today is the last Sunday that we shall be having a show for this year, and our last Africa Showdown. So we thank you so much, for your continued support.
My calendar might deceive me. Correct me, I'm growing old.
Yeah, today Today is our last African Showdown show and our last Sunday of broadcasting this year. Yes. So we want to thank you. Want to thank our viewers for their patronage, for their continued support, and for always watching and engaging with us. It has been a pleasure. But we will see you in the course of the week, where we shall be having our last show for the year, perhaps. I don't know, but we will see. But thank you so much. I think on my side, I don't have much to say. Thank you, Daniel Wesonga. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. And of course, Dr. Matsanga is still trying to get his calendar and see. But Doc, thank you so much now. We have to go.
All right. I'll revise it.
All right. You do that. We'll see you next time. Yes.